somebody who I'm sure, I don't know, is Pete Blackburn more Jackson Pollock or more paint by numbers? He joins us. The What Chaos Show on YouTube is great. Seth Jarvis was on yesterday?
Mm-hmm.
You had Seth Jarvis. It's a game day. How did you get him on a game day?
We pre-taped. We pre-taped on Monday, and we aired it yesterday. Second time he's been on. It should surprise nobody that he was unbelievable.
He is a phenomenal personality. A phenomenal personality. And not a bad hockey player as well. So thank you very much for coming on. It was funny. I thought about talking to you. So it goes back about 3 weeks ago, maybe a little bit longer. I saw the Boston Bruins come to Lenovo Center for their first meeting this season with the Hurricanes. And my takeaway was, my gosh, that's a bad hockey team. I thought Carolina was good, and I think they are good. But I thought Boston was alarmingly bad and slow. They've, in many ways, recovered. They're still just not very much over NHL 500. In fact, if you took the overtime losses and put it in the loss column, they're one game under 500. But they have recovered since replacing Jim Montgomery as head coach. They look a little bit better. What's your take on what the Boston Bruins are and what they can be?
Yeah, I think pre-Montgomery, they were shockingly bad. Like, they were shockingly bad. They weren't good at anything. They couldn't defend. They couldn't score, and they weren't getting saves. I don't think that anybody expected them to be that bad, and I don't think that anybody thought there was an excuse for them to be that bad, which is why Jim Montgomery got fired. Which, you know, the coming back to a little bit of their self-identity was inevitable, whether it was Jim Montgomery behind the bench or whether it was somebody else. I think post-Montgomery, they've just been okay. And I think that they might just be an okay hockey team that is going to have it some nights and is not going to have it other nights. They haven't really beat anybody that has super impressed me, but they're actually winning their winnable games now, which is at least a step in the right direction for this team.
Think they're a playoff team?
Yeah, but I think that's more of a reflection of how bad the Eastern Conference is as you get past like the first 3 or 4 teams that are in that conference. The Eastern Conference, after you get past the good teams, is just a kind of a bunch of crap, or a bunch of like mediocre teams that it's just going to go to whoever like puts it together and gets their most like meaningful points, I guess. Like you look at how that Eastern Conference playoff picture solidified down the stretch last year. The Washington Capitals only got in because they got like a few points in the final few weeks of the season, when everybody else in that race just kept losing game after game after game and squandering points.
Yeah, I think you're right. After the top, we might know who the top 8 will be pretty soon. Like by the time we get to the new year, we might know who the top 8 will be, given, you know, a catastrophic injury here. Tampa in the standings is behind Boston, right? But I think they're better than Boston. What have you made of the Toronto Maple Leafs, who got better without Austin Matthews? Is that what I'm to believe?
Yeah, I mean, they played better with Austin Matthews. I don't know if they got better. I think that it's one of those situations, you kind of saw it with Connor McDavid in Edmonton as well, where when your best player exits the lineup, it kind of sends a shockwave to every other player in the room to say, hey, we got to play our best hockey while this guy's out. And maybe it just kind of galvanized them a little bit. Right. But when I look at the Maple Leafs, like, it pains me as a Boston guy to say it, but like, they're in much better shape than the Bruins are this year. And I actually think that there is a sense that you maybe have to take them a little bit more seriously than you want to, because they've more or less changed their entire identity this season. You can say whatever you want about the Maple Leafs and their DNA and how they stink when it comes to the postseason, and they'll always fail in the spring. But at least what you're seeing from the returns on this group of players, they play very, very structurally sound defensively. Like, they're one of the best teams in the league defensively. And I think that's a big credit to Chris Tanev and Oliver Ekman-Larsson and some of the additions that they've made on the blue line. They've sort of changed that defensive approach. And that's where their strength lies. They also have two very good goaltenders, at least with the returns that they're getting on Anthony Stolarz and Joe Wall. Like, those are two things that they've never had in the past. And those are two things that you absolutely need to find postseason success. You can't win by outscoring your problems. And that's what the Maple Leafs have tried to do for a large portion of this generation, or this core, or whatever you want to call it, with Matthews, Tavares, Nylander, and Marner. I think that they're in much better position right now to find postseason success based off of how they're playing. Pete
Blackburn, the What Chaos Show on YouTube. Seth Jarvis was on the show yesterday. Go download and watch the episode. Subscribe to it. Why don't you? I saw Florida play twice in a row. I still think they're the gold standard. I understand the recency bias. They won a cup. But when the lights are the brightest, I think you're always going to get their best, and I think their best in many ways is better than everybody else is still in the East. In spite of the fact that Toronto has played well, New Jersey looks like they're turning a bit of a corner. Do you think Florida's the best team?
I honestly would say that, like, based off of what I've seen, Carolina has impressed me more than Florida, but I think that it's one of those situations where if Florida is in one piece and they're getting saves heading into the postseason, it's going to be hard for me to pick anybody except Florida, just based off of how they're built. And they are built to play playoff hockey. We've seen it over the last two postseasons. Yeah. They just know how to get it done. They're super well coached. They play tough. They play dirty in an endearing sense. I know a lot of people have a problem with it when it comes time to face them in a 7-game series, but they are a nightmare to play against, and I would have a hard time picking anybody else if they're healthy and they're getting saves.
Yeah, going back to the goaltending thing, I actually think that's a little bit of a problem for Carolina, but we're going to try to get to a couple of other teams here with Pete Blackburn. The What Chaos Show on YouTube is fantastic. All right. I mentioned the Devils seemingly have turned a corner. I think the Devils are a little bit. I think you can push them. I think based on having seen them twice against the Hurricanes, 1 win, 1 loss, I think that against their defense, with all respect to Brendan Dillon, I don't think they do very well when you apply a lot of pressure and get physical with them. So I'm not sure that they're built for the playoffs. They might have to do something. But they have certainly played a lot better, or maybe the Rangers are just that much worse. I don't know. What are your thoughts on New Jersey?
Well, first of all, the Rangers stink. We can say that. I don't think they're an awful hockey team, but they absolutely stink right now. They're a team that is only going to go and look as good as Igor Shesterkin takes them in looks. And he doesn't look great right now. And that defense is a horrible team, horrible on the blue line. So, the Rangers stink. I'm not reading too much into what the Devils did to them the other night, but the Devils, they're a good team. I don't dislike their blue line as much as you seem to, but I also think they're a little bit greener in terms of, like, both their personnel not having played together as long as some of these other teams that we're talking about. And they got a first-year head coach, at least in New Jersey, and I just think they're going to get stronger as the season goes along. I really like them, but I also value the importance of, like, losing before winning as a group when it comes to playing playoff hockey. And I really do think that losing in the playoffs as a team provides such value to learning a lot about yourself and how you're supposed to play and how you need to play in the postseason. And for the most part, like, the Devils are a little bit removed from that, not having made the playoffs last year.
I do think it's interesting. I saw the Rangers here the day before Thanksgiving, and it was 3-2 New York going to the third period, and Carolina was significantly better than them. Yep. Carolina's not gotten good goaltending. I know it's the second time I brought that up, but they haven't. The third period, Carolina just locked it down. They stopped making mistakes. They didn't need a goaltender. If I could have skated, I could have played in the third period, and they just owned the rest of the game. There's something going on with the Rangers. I can't figure it out. So you mentioned you put Carolina in the category of one of, if not the best teams in the East, which great. We've certainly seen some warts over the last few games, and even building to this over the last maybe 2 weeks. What is it about the Hurricanes that jumps out to you?
Well, I think number one, they're fast. Like they're probably the fastest team in the NHL, at least for on the attack. And their offense seems a little bit more diversified this year than what it's been in the past. And we talked to Seth Jarvis about that, and he really thinks that the biggest part of that is Marty Necas and how good he's been, which obviously he's turned into like one of the best players in hockey this season, which he probably could have made a lot more money if he did it last year. But it's still a really, a great credit to him and to the Hurricanes. But, not everything is being fed through the point. And I think that just makes them such a dangerous team. And yeah, the goaltending isn't there, but if they can, if they can get a Mackenzie Blackwood, if they can get I don't know if they can make the money work with like a John Gibson, but if you can get some help in net,
that's what they need.
I really don't know how many weaknesses they have. They keep finding this unbelievable gold on their blue line with guys leaving, but then them identifying who can come in and really make sure that they don't miss those guys. And like I said, I think there is value in losing in the playoffs as a group, learning from it, and being prepared the next time that you arrive and you're ready to go. And at some point, I have to imagine that Rod Brind'amour and the Hurricanes are going to get over that hump and learn from their playoff failures in the past and make a really, really strong run and potentially win it all.
I mean, just getting to a conference finals and winning a game would be a step in the right direction. It's been 3 trips to the conference finals since they won the cup in 2006, and 0-12. Not good. Pete Blackburn at What Chaos Show, or just What Chaos Show on YouTube. Fantastic. Again, Seth Jarvis was on there yesterday. Seth's great. What T-shirt was he wearing? Was he wearing like a Jordan Stahl T-shirt? Was he wearing a Jarvard T-shirt? His holding the bag of money T-shirt? Have you seen that?
No, he was. We got him right after practice, so he was in Carolina Hurricanes gear.
Nice.
I was trying to think. I was like, it couldn't have been anything super identifiable because I didn't notice, but he was in the team issued gear.
Okay, team issued. But
he did reveal to us that he. I don't know if you guys knew this. He did buy a new car and is no longer riding around in the Tiguan that has become so beloved.
I was there for that. I was in the locker room 2 years ago and a conversation. Sebastian Aho had just signed his deal. And Jarvis is like, you have all the money. I still got to pay off a Tiguan, right? So now, why are we throwing shade in a Tiguan?
Nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with
SUV.
Yeah, for sure. And I just like the story of he totaled his car and needed something to get home, so he bought it, and then he kind of he loved the Tiguan. It became part of his personality. So it was so disappointing to hear that he's now he was once a man of the people with his Tiguan, and now he's a fancy schmancy boy with an Audi sports car. It's you never meet your idols, I guess.
He is tremendous. Hey Pete, thank you so much for the time, man. We'll talk again.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
You got it.